There's only one hero who possesses the strength, the skill, and the courage to save the world single-handedly. Glover!
Welcome to Remember 64, where this week...
Glove slap, baby glove slap. Glove slap, I don't take crap.
Remember 64 is proud and happy to be a part of the Tokyo Beat Podcast Network. Welcome to the show, everyone. My name is David Petrangelo, and next time I see a bouncy ball lying around, I'll be sure to hop on top in order to save the world. God, if only I could figure out how these damn physics work on this thing. Oh man, I can't do this. We're all doomed, aren't we? Well, that's just a somewhat vague quip to our level 23 game, Glover. A new guest will be joining the show momentarily to talk about the game and their experience with the Nintendo 64, and of course, I'm very, very excited to dig in. Before that, though, as usual, a little housekeeping up top, patreon.com/remember64show, where you can get all the episodes of this podcast early and some early video content as well. You can also find us on YouTube now at Remember64. We have a couple of 2-minute reviews that are going up every once in a while, and those are basically short reviews of games like Glover and like Buck Bumble, for example. That will give you a little bit of video content and a quick review of myself talking about it for just a couple of minutes. Of course, if none of that interests you, not a problem whatsoever, just shoot us a rating on your podcast app of choice and let us know what you think of the show. Always helps us and helps more people find the show as well. Okay, let's bust out the history books, everyone.
I'm learning.
It's time to head back to November of 1998. Glover is a 3D platformer where you control a sentient glove. Yes, it is that little guy you see if you do a quick Google search of the game or on the episode art of this podcast. The goal in each level is to carry the ball to the end of each area, trying not to die or lose your ball as you guide it around. Now, you can't carry it. Instead, the crux of the game has you guiding it by rolling it with a push or jumping on top of it, dribbling it like a basketball, or throwing it. You can also transform the rubber ball into different forms, like a bowling ball or a smaller one that looks sort of like a pinball. That's essentially how each stage and area works and is set up. Now, Glover was developed by Interactive Studios, eventually renamed as Blitz Games in 1999, and was often a go-to place for intellectual property games, hence the publishing deal with Hasbro Interactive. Now, Interactive Studios was founded in the early 90s by who are known as the Oliver Twins, the British brothers of Andrew and Philip. Now, if you go way back to 1986, you might recognize a game called Super Robin Hood for PC, or whatever home hardware ran it at the time. Once the ball got rolling for their studio in the mid-90s, Interactive became known for games like Theme Park and the Syndicate games, and a number of smaller titles for the Genesis, Mega Drive, and Sega Saturn. Glover had a fairly normal development cycle for games at that time, first showing off at E3 of 1998 with Hasbro and Nintendo, but unfortunately for this title, it was released only 1 week before heavy hitters like Ocarina of Time, 2 weeks after F-Zero X, and 3 weeks before Turok 2 and Rogue Squadron. In some ways, this thing was just destined to be forgotten. Despite that, though, a sequel titled Glover 2 was planned, but eventually canceled, and a second updated Windows port for the first Glover was released in 2022. Now, in October of 2011, it was reported that newsworld.com had acquired a prototype cartridge of the game and had released a ROM and video of the sequel. You'll hear me talk about this in a moment. I tried it, and you may be surprised of what Glover 2 had in store for me. Now, jump to February of 2015, a former Interactive Studios programmer, James Steele, released a blog detailing some of the reasoning behind the cancellation of the sequel. According to Steele, publisher Hasbro had planned on acquiring 150,000 units of N64 cartridges for the game, and now you have to remember at this time, Nintendo had a pretty special deal that would give a discount when purchasing more cartridges, sort of like a bulk purchase. And at that time, it was common practice for a company to make moves like this. So, an employee at Hasbro in charge of ordering the carts not only bumped up the amount over 150, but they doubled it to 300,000. That left Hasbro with literally thousands of extras as retailers were not biting on the additional stock of the release. This cost Hasbro an estimated $500,000, and in the end, they ate the loss and decided to cancel the project due to financial situations. Now, it's been reported at a couple of outlets that the game was around 80% complete before all of this happened. Now, the version that I played definitely felt like it was pretty close to being finished and in pretty good shape as well. All right, let's do like we always do. Let's head into the meat of the episode. Let's talk about Glover and our experiences with it.
Alex, hi, I'm Ray. How would you explain our show No More Whoppers?
Are you a nerd having trouble transitioning from your 20s to 30s to 40s and beyond? Age with us, not at us.
I'm already gray.
Are you tired of the man keeping you down? If you see something, say something. Do you enjoy the family computer? Capsule computing. We got them all. No more whoppers. We outlived the queen. She said it couldn't be done.
No, I'm fading.
Come back. I can't do this alone. Do you enjoy number munchers? And is numbers what you call
Then listen to No More Whoppers.
only on the Tokyo Beat Network?
Strength? Glover's got the magic and the moves to match big bad bosses. Skill? Glover's got the brains to solve mind-boggling puzzles. And talk about courage? Glover's got the to handle any challenge. Glover for Nintendo 64 and PC CD-ROM. Gotta love the glove.
All right, as always, with Remember 64, it is now time to talk about the game itself with a special guest. Again, I am very, very lucky to be joined by another first-time guest. Jared, how are you, man?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me. Excited to be on your show. I've been a listener for a while. I love what you do here. I love the 64 in general, so I'm excited to talk about our game here. But thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, of course. It was your idea to play Glover. I always want to have a guest come on and sort of like at least ask them like, hey, what do you feel like playing? Or what do you remember you really like playing? And what do you want to revisit and everything? And, Glover is not something that was on my radar growing up. There's multiple reasons as to why. I got into that a little bit at the beginning of the episode as to like, it was just shoved in the middle of this crazy release schedule. And that's part of the problem. But you mentioned that you love the 64. Why do you love the 64?
Oh man, the 64 was my first console. It was the first console
nice.
I owned. I had a Game Boy before that. I had a Sega Game Gear that I had as well, but the N64 was my first console. I think that was kind of the first console that really made me love video games and realize that they could be more than just kind of entertainment. I think Ocarina of Time was that for me, where it could be like have a narrative and there could be an adventure. It could be a shared experience with friends. I played a ton of Super Smash Brothers and Pokemon Stadium. And the cool thing with the Nintendo 64 is there's all these like weird smaller games, Glover being one of them, where just like they make no fucking sense. Like those developers were just like, let's do anything. There's so many games in the Nintendo 64 that are just like,
what if Mario's glove was alive? Like,
yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's a lot of nostalgia for sure.
Sure.
First console, a lot of my friends had it growing up, and again, Pokemon, Zelda, Mario. I think that's kind of what solidified these really big franchises for me. That now I just absolutely love them. Like these games and these franchises have been with me since the beginning, and the N64 just kind of created this special connection to video games and almost like a new perspective on video games too. That was right in the peak and the age of when I, was getting older and I was starting to think about these things more critically and rationally. I mean, as critical as a fucking 8-year-old can think about Pokemon Stadium. I mean, I decided to buy and play Glover, so maybe my opinion isn't as as valid.
All right, well, we're done here. We're just going to move on, and we'll go to the next episode. All right, thanks for coming, man.
Yep, thanks for having me, dude.
All right. That's great. Yeah. And I think that's a very common thread with a lot of people that have come on the show and just people that you talk to in general. Like if they have experience with the 64, especially if they owned it, it's like, it seems like for me, everyone's going to hear this again and again, but like, it was Mario Party. It was Ocarina of Time, but it was multiplayer really is what it was, which I think is part of like, unless you're Zelda, unless you're Mario 64, like I think single player stuff, I mean, it wasn't really the market, I would say, for the N64, but like, there are some pretty good games that are single player that I have already revisited and played so far in the show within just the first year. But something like Glover is sort of like this hidden gem for like so many different reasons. But it's, a lot of it is like, you sat down and you played with your friends. I mean, that's really what it was. You had 4
Yeah.
controllers. I mean,
That
it
was what
was
I
the
was gonna say.
only console doing it.
Yeah, the N64 had 4 controllers, so it wasn't just like you and your friend and swapping people out. You could play Mario Party games, you could play Pokemon Stadium mini games, you could all play Super Smash Bros. Mario Kart. Can get more people together, and it was more of a social gathering for sure with the
Yeah.
N64.
Yeah, exactly. Which, now is obviously very easy to do, but at the time getting 4
Right.
people to play the same game was
Yeah.
not possible,
Yeah.
It's amazing that it did that and stuff. Before we sort of throw ourselves into Glover a little bit more. I mean, you're talking about or critically talking about yourself about your the way that you see games and growing up and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. But you have your own stuff out there too. You have your own
Yeah.
podcast and your own group of guys that are talking about games. Let's talk about that briefly before we talk about Glover itself.
Yeah, so my show is called Play Along Podcast, and essentially what we do, it's like a book club for games.
Nice.
The 3 of us will each kind of take turns and we'll rotate choosing a game. We'll then look at a walkthrough and break that game up into individual sections, and then we'll come together each week and talk about that section specifically. And we talk about everything. We talk about the game in its entirety. We talk about the narrative. We really dive deep into the narrative where we talk about most, if not all, of the narrative points that are being hit. And it's interesting because at the end of every episode, we kind of gauge how we're feeling about the game. So it kind of allows us to kind of individual moments in a game as you're experiencing it, you can kind of reflect on how you're feeling. So maybe like halfway through, you're not feeling it, but then like towards the end, it like comes around for some reason. There's specific reasons and specific points that you can do that. And the 3 of us all have very wide, different games that we love in different genres. So we've played so many different games. We started with Ocarina of Time. We have like Metal Gear Solid. Kai, our other co-host, loves indie games. So we played through Disco Elysium and Kentucky Route Zero and Firewatch. Like we have so many games on there.
Those are all up my alley too. I love it.
Yeah. So we have a little bit for everybody. Whether I'm the Nintendo guy, so I'm always forcing them to play Legend of Zelda games and Pokemon and Mario. So I'm that guy, and then Ben's our resident Sony guy. So I had never played a Metal Gear Solid game before, and that was the first time was on that show. And that's what I really love about our show too, is we can kind of experience games that we might have rather avoided, and we can get a perspective on someone that really loves it. Like when we played through Ocarina of Time, Ben had never played through it. And it was wild to me that someone in like 2022 could not play through Ocarina of Time. And hearing his perspective was just so cool. It was so like revitalizing. And it was like I was living vicariously through him and experiencing Ocarina of Time for the first time.
I wish I was you right now. Like
I know, exactly. But yeah, that's Play Along Podcast in a nutshell.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to find that all your podcast feeds there. Okay. So let's talk about Glover. I want to ask you before we're like talking about all the fine details of how it plays and how it looks and all those types of things. Why this game?
I don't know, man.
And I'm not saying that critically. I mean, like I wanted to play. I don't know. I want to play a bunch of games on the 64 that I haven't before, or that I remember playing that I assume may or may not be good anymore, depending on how they feel or whatever.
Yeah.
You mentioned before that you were the kid that purchased Glover, which from what we've seen, it was few and far between. It was like you and like 4 other people. So
right.
So did you just want to revisit and see if it still held up, or what was sort of like the tipping point?
For me, a lot of my N64 purchases. So as a kid, I was always kind of like behind a generation. So by the time I was like playing N64 stuff, like GameCube stuff was coming out. So I bought a lot of my games like third party, like pawn shops and retro game shops. Is kind of where I got things. And being a kid and not having access like to the internet where I can look up reviews and things like that, a lot of it was just, does the game look cool? Does the cover of it look interesting? Or how much money do I have? This game's cheap. Like I can spend $2 and get a game. Like my kid mind would have been blown. I was like, that's so cheap, which is probably what happened with Glover. But I got this from a pawn shop. I remember going in and getting like a stack of games. I think it was like Majora's Mask I got because I'd started playing Zelda, and it was like the gold cart with like the holographic on it too. So I was just like, I gotta get that.
Yeah.
And a couple other ones, but Glover too. And I think as a kid, I remember enjoying it because it felt similar to things like Banjo-Kazooie and Mario 64 in the sense of its like premise and idea.
Colorful world,
colorful
things like that.
world,
Yeah.
collectibles, fun music. So
Yep.
as a kid, I do remember enjoying it, but I didn't play very far into it. I remember like maybe first boss, maybe into second boss.
Sure.
But
Not
obviously,
uncommon, really. Not uncommon for, someone
exactly,
who's 10, 12, 8, like whatever, like in that range. That,
yeah,
that happened all the time. Me and my Super Nintendo games when I was
yeah.
around 8, 10, when I had that, like same thing. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
this is this game. Like I would go back to it years later and be like,
Yeah.
oh, this is how this game ends.
Yeah, you just never. I never saw the ending to any of them. I never finished anything as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, with Glover kind of coming back into the mainstream conversation because it was just recently ported, or relatively recently ported to PC. I was like,
Yep.
oh man, I never like finished Glover, and there's this like conversation around the game of how it's not the best 3D platformer. And in with those kind of conversations, it's more enticing for me to check out a game because if it's bad, I'm like, well, I want to know like why it's bad. It's
Why?
like a
Like what?
exactly like a car crash on the side of the road. Like I shouldn't stare at it, but I can't help myself for some reason. I think that's what I wanted with Glover in introducing kind of like when you asked what game I want to play, like that was one that stuck out to me the most, is because that was one that I feel like I haven't experienced a ton of. I remember enjoying it as a kid, and now there's whole like zeitgeist and conversation of why it's really bad. So I was like, okay, let me revisit this and let's see how bad this actually is.
Yeah. So I got the Banjo Kazooie vibe from it a little
Yeah,
bit as well.
100%.
The level's a little bit more contained and smaller and everything, I think. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit different like that. I think for me, like I like the world. I like, it's just like
Mhm.
this goofy premise of just like you're a glove. Like why? Because there's a
Yeah,
wizard. Why?
exactly.
Because you can
Yeah.
transform the ball into different things. Why? Because like whatever.
Yeah.
That's fine. I can go with that and everything. I think the problem with for me the way that the game felt, like as far as like how it
Yes.
controlled. I think it's early 3D. I get it. It's not this giant studio that made it. I get it.
Mm.
But sometimes it's like it's partially like the level design decisions, I think, that
Mhm.
sort of killed it. And some levels, not all of them, but some of them, like there'd be a really thin area that you have to go across with whatever ball,
With your ball.
like
Exactly.
whichever one it is. It doesn't matter which one it is. And it's so hard to just keep it simply straight and moving properly.
Yeah.
um and I think I get what they're trying to do, because I think the game is supposed to feel like it's like this physics based experiment only,
Mhm.
right? Because every ball that you change to, you have the regular bouncy ball, I guess you could call it the Toy Story ball, which
Mm.
is what I kept thinking.
Yeah.
um
It looks exactly like the Toy
it's
Story
so
ball.
similar. Yeah, it's got a
It's
star
weird.
on it and
Yeah.
everything. Like it's the same.
Right.
There's a bowling ball, which is like, and then there's like a gem or something like that, and then
Yeah.
there's basically like a pinball. um
Like the small little tiny like metal one.
yeah, or like a marble or something. And then
Yeah.
they all move at a different speed. They can all do different
Mhm.
things. Only the blow up ball, the regular one can float. Or no, I think the gem
Mhm.
can too. So like when there's water, that
Yes.
changes
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Like all that stuff is fine. I get it. I see what they're doing with it.
Yeah.
The experiment is
And
there.
cool.
And it is
Like
cool.
it's interesting that for this game and the age of it, that it has this ball and it has so many interesting physics integrated into it. And obviously
Yeah.
you use the ball for like boss fights, smacking the bowling ball into enemies.
Yep.
But it just doesn't ever feel right. Like there's
That
just something about it
there's
that
yeah.
never feels right.
Yeah, like even just like the first stage,
Yeah.
it's pretty simple. There's not a whole lot of ways you can fail or whatever. Like there's a couple things. You
Mhm.
can obviously get hit by enemies and stuff, but it's like you go from, it's a simple thing, like even just in the first stage where you go from pushing the ball with the glove with your character, and then you get on the
Mhm.
water, so he has to stand on it, right? So then when you stand on the
Like
water,
the
all of a
legs
sudden,
run back and
yeah, he's
forth.
walking back, which I love the animation. I love that's the idea.
Yeah.
And this makes sense logically and in the real world. But
Mhm.
the second you hit the water, all of a sudden your control is flipped. So
Yep.
if you're pushing straight or up on your joystick, you have to
Gonna
automatically
go
now
backwards.
pull backwards. And it makes sense because you're
Mhm.
running on the ball and you need to move that way. I get it. But it would just be so much simpler, and just a small thing like that to be like, just ignore the real world for 2
Right.
seconds and just make forward
Exactly.
forward. Can we just do that?
Yeah, you made a game about a sentient glove. We're not looking for realism right now. We're not looking for any realism at the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially with like young kids that are playing this. Like
Yes.
that's confusing. Especially on the fucking trident of an N64 controller that they were using. And that's what I noticed too. I mean, not so much with like obviously if you're emulating it, you're using some kind of controller and you can map your buttons or whatever. But in playing it, it seemed like third party developers, some of them really struggled with the N64 controller.
Yeah.
And I feel like Glover is definitely one of those that felt like they really had a hard time with figuring out how these buttons worked and how they all felt. And like, you can use the D-pad to use Glover, which the D-pad is never used in any N64 games, but it just never feels right. And the analog stick feels like when you're on the ball, he's moving like really quickly.
Yeah.
But then when you're off, it's like has this weird slowness to it too. And when you're on the water with the ball, it feels like an ice level because it has a little bit of like you're pushing forward and there's a little bit of give to it after you let go.
A little bit of a slide sort of thing. Yeah.
A little bit of a slide. Yeah.
Which again, realistically, fair enough. But
like, sure, works.
You're a sentient glove, like you said.
Yeah.
Like just and you know what? Like I think the ideas and the concept and all the like the sort of things that they want to do, like you're on the water and then you switch to the bowling ball and the bowling ball sinks and you can get stuff on the bottom of it.
Yeah.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
But then you change the ball again and now you have to get out of the water. And then getting out of the water is a whole other thing because like you can't jump with the ball because you jump off of it, but then you also can't bounce it because you're in water.
Because you're in the water.
And it's just like, so how am I doing this? And I'm like struggling to get over the smallest tiny little gap. And I'm just like,
right.
Holy shit, Glover. Just like, I wish you were like the guys from Home Alone with the sticky fingers and you could just pick it up and just move. You
just grab it and just
just grab it and just move. Like whatever, just do it. Like I wish there was like a, something like, anyways, it's all the small things that make it frustrating to experience the platforming stuff of it.
Yeah.
I wanted to like, I was pushing through to like really try to find like, oh, which level does that really change? Where does it really flip the switch?
Start to click?
Yeah. And I didn't quite get there.
Yeah. And I think that's probably what's more frustrating too. Like now looking at this in a much more critical view, if I've played lots of games, I have lots of things to compare this to, is Glover has a lot of like really good ideas. Like the whole concept with its hands and everything, you can throw the ball and it creates like a little dot arch that shows where you're throwing the ball and you can bounce it to get up higher ledges and everything.
Oh, the bouncing thing is such a cool idea. I love that idea.
Oh yeah, 100%. But it never feels executed properly.
Yeah,
it's like just slightly janky where it makes things complicated. And when you're rolling the ball and you're trying to get to these levels, it's just frustrating. You're falling off ledges over and over and over again.
And like you have like 3 or 4 hearts depending on where you are in the game, like where you can get hit by a few enemies and you're fine, right? Or the ball gets hit by a few enemies and it you can survive. But the second you fall off the level, you're just boom, you're gone.
Nope, you're dead.
You're gone. And you gotta like most of the time start all the way back. And I'm just like, I don't want to experience the section that I just experienced again. I just want to be respawned essentially right where I died. And then I can just continue from there. And then I think I would have had a better time with that particular level or that particular section. Yeah. It's those design choices that I'm like,
Yeah. How did you feel about the collectibles, the Garibs? I think they're called. Yeah, I think they're called Garibs.
They're cards
because they're floating playing cards. Yeah. They made up their weird names to it.
Yeah.
But it was in this weird in between where like Glover is not necessarily a collectathon. It's not like a Donkey Kong 64. Right. It's not like a Banjo-Kazooie for sure. But there are collectibles, but they don't really do anything. You can just collect them, and if you want to like complete the game, there's like a completionist like way of doing it. I don't think you get anything for collecting everything in the game though. You just get you did it, thumbs up.
You literally get a white glove thumbs up probably.
yeah, exactly. I literally think the game ends with the wizard holding his 2 thumbs up and then it just like screenshots that. But yeah, it made me feel like I wanted this to either like lean all the way into collectathon or just like not have anything, because the other problem is the levels kind of feel not devoid of personality, because they're weird. They're very quirky.
Yes, the whole game is very quirky. That's a good way to put it.
yeah, the levels never hit with like something like Donkey Kong 64 or Banjo Kazooie. Like they never had that, I don't know, that feeling to them.
Yeah, it doesn't quite have that personality to it, or that
Personality is a good one. That's a good word to use
yeah,
in it.
like all
Yeah.
these very general words that we're using to describe it. We're so critical.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're so good at what we do. No, but it's true. Like the collectible things, it's almost like
Yeah.
they kind of like find that they tried to do like this middle ground where it's almost like it's coins in Mario, but also finding quote unquote extras in these other collectathon
Right.
type of games, right? And it gives you points. I don't know if those points do anything. You know, there's no way to like use them for something. Like I didn't quite figure out. I tried. I wanted to go to different
Mm.
sections because I put them in sort of, sometimes they're like in hidden areas or whatever, like around a corner or over another gap or something. I tried every once in a while, but eventually I was like, I'll just get what I get along the path and that's it. It's not like you
Yeah.
need 10 out of the 20 or whatever it is in that particular
Right.
level to unlock the door to beat the level.
And that would have made them more interesting, given
It
them
would
some
have given them
purpose,
more
like
of a
Banjo.
purpose. It would have made it more
Yeah.
frustrating, I think, even on top
Right.
of already
Yeah.
everything that we discussed.
Yeah.
But, you know, as long
That's
as
true.
like, you know, 15 out of the 30 were like fairly reasonably, you know, reachable by just
Right.
like the main path, then it would be like, all right, that's fine. And if you want to get the extras, you get the extras. They're just sort of there, you know, they're just sort of
Right.
like a thing. I really tried in the first couple of like, I guess, main hubs or worlds and levels and stuff. And then eventually I'm like, I'm just going to keep pushing through because if I start
Yeah.
falling off the map more and more for like one stupid little card, I'm just,
You're like, I'm done.
I'm
I'm
done.
gonna flip.
I'm done. And it's not like
Yeah.
I'm done. Like this game is complete garbage because I think, like we've said, the ideas are there,
Yeah.
and I just wanted to experience those ideas. But I found, yeah, the collectibles specifically they're just
Yeah.
kind of there. It actually
Yeah.
reminds me because I mentioned to you before we hit record too. I played the unreleased 2, Glover 2 or Glover sequel.
Glover 2, the most anticipated sequel ever.
Ever,
Glover 2.
clearly ever. And it is very, very much more of the Banjo Kazooie Donkey Kong 64 feel. They went
interesting.
for it. Yeah. So it's not a full game. It's only like, you know, half
Right.
done or something. And it's only a ROM. So you can only play it on, you know, a ROM device or on your computer or whatever. But I hooked up my 64 controller. I wanted to get the whole feel for it and everything.
Full experience.
Yeah, and it is very much like the section that I played, which was like a couple hours of it, is this hub world that feels somewhat similar to the opening area of Banjo Kazooie, where you start outside your house
Oh,
and you find a couple
interesting.
things. You have instead of a mole that tells you tips and tells you what to do, it's a bird. And instead of
Oh, so they just went with it. They went with they just like went with the Banjo Kazooie kind of like
yeah, they just went for it. But I actually think that this would have been a far better game just playing these couple of hours in this one area, because
That's what I was going to ask. I was like, does it fix at least some of the problems you had with the first
it
one?
actually does. And it's not even a complete game, and it feels better because
That's wild.
at least in the area that I was playing in, there's no like
Uh-huh.
cliffs to fall off of. You know,
Mhm.
you can traverse up things and whatever, but then if you fall, you just fall on the ground and you start over again and you just go up. I guess that can be frustrating, but you're not falling off a level and losing all your lives and starting over
Right.
again and stuff, right? So, like for example, one thing was you need to get up to a higher area because you can't quite, even your double jump doesn't quite do it. So you have to
Right.
get on the ball and you have to turn it into the bowling ball, and then you have to jump off the bowling ball to get to the higher thing, and then you can reappear with the ball, and then you have to use that to bounce off different things, and it's all within the same sort of forest
way more
area
intuitive
and it
than
just makes more
this one.
sense.
Yeah.
It just the Glover on his own when he's not on the ball moves better. You know, he moves faster. His jump is more responsive. It just like just those like that little time. It was a better game than the first one, and it wasn't even a finished game.
A half done ROM better than the complete original
Yeah,
version.
I'm
of it.
sure there's like
That's
a hard
crazy.
end to it because it's just a ROM
Yeah.
that's unfinished. I might pick it back up and sort of see like, oh, where do they go with this and stuff. But it does feel like
How
they're
far
really,
actually is it?
yeah, like they really do feel like they were going for bigger, better ideas with the same
Mhm.
fun concepts that we were talking about. So,
Yeah. I think that works. Like that idea feels like it works better in this because the
Yeah.
levels in Glover are fairly linear. There's
Yes,
not a
they
ton
are.
of exploration that you do. It's very much like point A to point B kind of situation, and that's where it differs from those other N64 games where
Yeah.
just what you were saying with Glover 2, that sounds way more exciting. That sounds more interesting.
It just, yeah, and those kind of games are my thing too. Like I love
Yeah.
Banjo-Kazooie. Like I love that
Oh,
series and that
same.
game. I haven't played Donkey Kong 64 in years, but
Yeah, me
but
neither.
those games are just fun. There's something wholesome about them. There's something simple but
Mhm.
also puzzly about them, and that's kind of what the first Glover is going for. But yeah, I think somehow like the
Right.
level design, the camera, like all that kind of stuff just doesn't. The parts just
Oh
don't quite add
god.
up. Oh no,
Don't even
I
get
hit
me
a chord about the
started
camera.
about the camera. Okay, so we talked about this game being hard to control, right? Sure, why not? You fall off edges. There's platforming and levels where you're having to kind of precariously transport this ball on very small platforms across, and if you fall off, you die and you start over.
Yeah.
Add in a camera that constantly pops behind walls, never does what you want it to, and that's a recipe for disaster.
It
Because
really is.
times I fell off just because I couldn't see where I was going because I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's a wall." And then I have like the death animation screen. I'm like, "That's cool.
Yeah, of
That's fine."
course. Great. And again,
Got
it's just I'm just gonna keep going back to it. They have ideas that they want to do.
Yes.
It's very physics based, but it's little things like with the camera where like
Mhm.
there's like a slope, for example, that goes down
Yeah.
to like I don't know, a save point or another one of the little cards or something like that. But you can't quite see where that slope goes or how steep it is because depending on which ball you have, you might get thrown down that slope a
Yeah.
lot quicker. Again, physics based makes sense. I get that idea. But if the camera's blocked by some stupid wall that's behind you, or you're not quite ready, which way, then you're down, then it falls off the level, and you're like, ah, shit, now we got to start over. And it's
And then
like,
you're like, "Gotta start all over again."
brutal. Like it's brutal. It's frustrating how many ideas are here that just aren't executed.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I'm reading facts on like the Wikipedia of
yeah,
this, and grain of salt Wikipedia, but apparently because we were talking about if you're on the ball in the water, your walking is reversed.
yeah.
If you play on easy mode, it's regular. It's regular movement. It's not, the controls aren't reversed. That's wild.
That,
That's such a crazy concept for this kind of game.
you know what? Maybe I'll try it again. It's not going to fix everything, but it's going to fix those small sections. Oh
And it's
man.
only in the it's not in bonus stages. It says bonus stages are unavailable. So in bonus stages it's regular, but in the normal levels, if you're on easy, walking on the ball is automatic. It's how you regularly walk.
Yeah, I think that
That's
would
crazy.
solve at least some of those feelings because like honestly, I felt like, oh, you have momentum again, physics. You have
Yeah.
momentum. I'm going, and then you hit the water, and all of a sudden I'm hitting a wall. I get like I'm going backwards. It's
Yeah.
just like, oh, it just man, just the small little touches. So
Yeah.
it, you know what, honestly, man, like I think if like the nostalgia hit with wanting to revisit Glover and you're sort of interested in like what I honestly like download the ROM and play the second one even for like an hour and just give it a little run
Yeah.
because
I'm gonna check it out. I'm so curious now because I was reading on. I remember hearing like conversation about there sort of being a sequel, and then when the developers had released this Glover on Steam, they're like, "Oh, we really want to do the sequel too." But knowing that the ROM's available, I
yeah,
want to check it out now.
yeah,
I
just
gotta
Internet
feel how
Archive
this
has
feels.
it and it's available. I mean, the person, one of the people who used to work for the studio
Yeah.
just re-released it. Like they put the file
Yeah.
out there and they just sort of and it's great. Sounds good to me, man. I tried it.
That's
I was
cool.
like, I just want to see where the ideas went and just go from there. So
Do you think because in this day and age, there's a lot of like kind of not remakes, but like reimagining of games. We got like Ukulele from like
yeah,
spiritual
yeah, yeah.
successor of Banjo Kazooie. It'd be really interesting for someone to come like, I'm going to do a Glover 2 and have it not call it Glover 2, but kind of take some of the ideas and really use the modern game technology to execute properly all of the really good ideas that Glover
Yeah.
unfortunately didn't execute well. That'd be really interesting.
Yeah, I think you could because you have engines that can handle that stuff a lot better. You know, it doesn't have to be the brand new Unreal Engine. It can be something in between,
Right.
something that's, you know, an indie dev one that they have. Not that Unreal's not available to everybody, but you know what I mean? Like
Right.
I think just a different engine and different capabilities and you know, they're not simple ideas, but they can happen much simpler with what everybody knows now and how
Mhm.
easy it is to work with the engines. Whereas like with the 64 in general, Nintendo's like, you know, they're just creating walls and barriers everywhere for people to create for this console and other consoles as
Yeah.
well. But this one in particular, because like you mentioned earlier, trying to figure out what to do with this controller, if you don't have everything available to you, controller or graphics, or it doesn't matter what it is, if it's not available to you, how are you supposed to get the job done? Like,
Yeah,
just in general.
I can't imagine being a dev and they're like program for this and they're like, okay, I'll try.
I
I'm gonna
guess.
try my best.
Yeah, like it just
Half this controller is not going to be used, but I guess that's fine. Sure, why not?
yeah. I mean, honestly, the D-pad is meant for the wrestling games. That's what I know it for.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Honestly, I give the N64 controller shit, but when we played through Ocarina of Time for our podcast, I played it on an N64
yeah,
and I used the N64 controller, and it felt fine. Like it felt fine in that game. Granted, first party Nintendo game makes sense that we know that a lot of third party developers had problems with this, but I didn't have any issues with it. I was like, this actually doesn't feel
yeah.
too bad. Like it felt kind of intuitive in there.
Yeah, I think for the most part, it's honestly it's okay. I think it just depends
Yeah,
on the game. I think it honestly just depends on the
yeah,
game, and it doesn't even
for sure.
necessarily mean that the developers did something wrong. It's just there's only so much you could do with such a wacky layout, and
Hmm.
it feels like a game like Glover or Mario 64 or Zelda or whatever it might be like should just work because it's like, well, now you have
Right.
360 control, you have the joystick and whatever. But if you just can't quite get those small touches like we've been talking about like quite right, then it just falls apart.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I don't think that's the controller's fault in this game. I just think it's the, like you
It's an
said, the jank.
unfortunate, like,
Yeah, it's a jankiness
yeah.
of the way the game is just in general. So
Yeah. And I mean, like we were saying, there's so much to compare it to at this time too. So
yeah.
when there's something that was similar that came out, it was easy when that didn't compare or the shape up to everything else that it fell short.
Yeah, like
Uh,
Ocarina of Time came out around the same time as Glover. Why are you
that's
not just
wild.
playing that? You know?
That's wild to think
like
about. Uh,
and-
IGN gave this game an 8 out of 10
ooh,
when it came
that's
out.
not right.
Edge gave it a 7. N64 Magazine gave it an 83%. GameSpot gave it a 5, and PC Zone gave it a 67.
Yeah, and I think I flipped through a Nintendo Power issue,
Yeah.
and it was like a 7 something, sort of mid sevens, high
Mm.
sevens or something. And that's Nintendo Power. You know, they should
That's
be given it a 9.9, you know, like
yeah. 10 out of 10.
yeah,
Glover's the
it's,
best game you could play on the
come
show.
on, it's like
Summer
everything in
blockbuster.
our quote unquote review section is an all-star title here. Like,
Yeah. Oh, I
um,
forgot this also came out on the original
it
PlayStation
was on
too.
PlayStation as well. Yeah, I
Yeah.
wonder. I don't know that would necessarily solve anything because again, if the game just feels the way it feels, but I don't know how they did the controls because with the C buttons or the camera and all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah, how would you do the controls? The triggers?
yeah, maybe it's just the L2 and R2. Maybe is what it
Yeah.
was. But you know, you didn't have dual stick controls with the cameras and stuff at that time, right? Which would be
Yeah.
what makes sense for a controller like that, but that wasn't possible at the time, or at least it wasn't what they could have done. That would have helped, but I don't know that it would have solved much.
Yeah,
either.
I don't know if having an additional stick would have helped very much because still, I feel like all the cameras in that era were still like they would snap. They would
Yeah,
use
100%.
the bumpers to snap, so you would still be like flipping the analog stick and it would just snap to whatever angle you needed to,
Yeah.
and then you get stuck behind a wall in Glover again, and you'd be like, well, this isn't helping.
Yeah, and it's not the only game that handles it that way. Obviously, like it's just like you
Yeah.
said, it's just and there's other 64 games that do it, and somehow, but I don't know if it's the restrictions of these linear smaller levels and why
Mhm.
sometimes for like again we're gonna keep mentioning like Banjo Kazooie as an example, but like that camera's not perfect, but it just works better, even though it has very similar mechanics. Somehow they
Yeah.
figure it out. Some areas are larger, so maybe there's not as many walls in the way or whatever, but like there's some tight
Mhm.
spots in that game. And I haven't revisited it in a few years, but when I do, I'm definitely gonna be critical of that camera and just see if it makes sense. And I'm going to play the copy that is sitting behind me. I'm not gonna play it on the Xbox version where I have the Xbox
Yeah.
controller. I want to play
The-
it that way and just see how it works. But yeah, I mean, honestly, the camera for this is just one of the many things. It's just the cherry on top of why it just didn't feel well.
I mean, and one of the other issues I had too is the bosses in this game. So there are 6 worlds that you go through, each world ending with a boss. And again, they just felt like they didn't have a lot of personality. They felt very. I mean, the first boss is literally just 3 fish stacked
Yeah.
on top of each other. That's it. That's it.
right.
No cool name, no cool backstory. They're just 3 fish stacked on top of each other, and that's it.
That should be the name. It just like pops up 3 fish stacked on top of each other.
Honestly, that would be more funny.
It would be
That-
funny.
I
It would be very
I'd
tongue in
be
cheek. It would
fine with
be
that.
yeah, it would be great. That would give it that personality that we're saying it's sort of missing a little bit.
Yeah, and then like the second boss is just like a clown, not like a cool clown. He's just like a regular clown.
I, I
And
don't know
I don't
where
know.
I don't
How
know
did you
what
feel about the
clowns you see,
bosses?
man, but cool clown is
Yeah.
not in my book at all. So
That's fair. That's fair.
I was
Interesting. I'm thinking like what's the one from oh gosh, Twisted Metal.
is it Sweet Tooth? Is that what it?
Sweet Tooth.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Like that's an interesting looking clown.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all terrifying. We can all agree that
Exactly.
clowns
Yeah,
are
that's what I'm
not
getting
fun.
at. Yeah, just no, stay away. I'm good. I mean, make your balloons, but just do it on the other side of the room. It's fine.
just don't do it near me.
Yeah, and have all the lights on, please. I don't want to have any shadows, nothing. You know, take out flashlights if you have to in the middle of the day. I don't care. Just anywhere else.
Right.
But around me.
Yeah. But how did you feel about the bosses?
Yeah, no, I think I agree. Like it's not great. I mean, I think I was expecting like now you're sort of used to like when you have a boss and it has, you know, different stages and all those types of things that you get, even in the most simplest games. You know, I'm looking for that a little bit, or I'm looking for like what I've learned in the levels leading up to this, I get to use against the boss all at once. And that's sort of how you know, use your knowledge from the past, like 5-6 levels or whatever, 2 stages, whatever it is. It didn't quite feel that way. You know, it was just like, oh, this is just another different stage, and it's more enemy focused as opposed to traversal and platforming focused. And like,
Right.
and that's it. And then really that was the difference to me, is that it was just that. And it sometimes works. I don't think they're great, but I don't think they're terrible either. But yes, a little bit more interesting would have at least helped, even if the gameplay of it was exactly the same. Like just
kind of fell short. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just one thing, you know, if like camera wasn't great, but the controls were fine, or if like the boss fight wasn't interesting, but I had a cool, like if there's like give and take with one of them, but
yeah, the give and take of Glover. That's pretty much
title of the episode, the give and take of Glover.
Yeah, the give and take of the give and take of the white glove. Like it's just I don't know. I mean, I'm happy I played it. You know, not everything's gonna be a home run. I know for sure that with the N64 is always going to be the possibility of even the big hitter games. They're not going to be perfect. They're going to feel maybe a little bit off, but that's also the time of the technology. That's just what they could do with 3D. And I think, like you mentioned a couple times earlier, these sort of third-party developers and publishers, it seems like they were sort of not working with a full slate of what the Nintendo stuff was. So it's kind of like, it's almost unfair in some ways to be like, yeah, you should be exactly like, you know, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask was. Like, well, no, they just weren't given that opportunity.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I always like go back and forth between if I would like, oh, you should play Glover, because it's like, yeah, it's not a good time a lot of the time, but experiencing it, and like I'm someone that likes to play these games even if someone's like, oh, they're bad, and I was like, well, I kind of want to see like why it's bad. Maybe I can find something redeemable. And even like again with Glover, I think all of his ideas are really good and really cool for this time. Even like doing anything physics based, even the bigs weren't handling a lot of that stuff.
Yeah,
like we're handling a lot of like physics and everything too. It's just like you said, just execution that it didn't go through. Who knows? Maybe one day we'll get the Glover 2 sequel that we've all.
Yeah, maybe this Glover 2 that I tried will be what they end up making, and they'll just make it more modern. And I'm like, great, I'm all for it. And I say give it a shot. The first one, there's ideas there. You might be with the way it controls and all the things we've been talking about, but those ideas, man, they're pretty good. So just explore those concepts, I guess.
Yeah, if you can have like an indie studio now tackle Glover, who would you have take on Glover?
I mean, it's not their,
or any studio.
I mean, yeah, it's not their thing now, but everything that Supergiant makes, I'm in.
Oh my god, so Supergiant would do so good.
They would have a great personality for it. It would look amazing. I mean, it's not their type of game, or at least it seems like it wouldn't be their type of game. But like anything they make, I am first in line. So, and it was from the beginning when they made Bastion. So now what they are with Hades, it's just like, just give me everything that you do. I will spend, like I did with Hades, 200 hours playing it, no problem. So
I'm expecting now like a deep emotional narrative driven Glover experience.
Yeah. Roguelike
top
Glover.
down isometric roguelike Glover.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, I mean, you
Put
could bounce the ball around the small level like in Hades, like just sort of change the aesthetic of it.
Oh, you like smack it and it bounces around. You can like catch it back up.
Yeah,
We got some ideas.
Yeah,
here
we'll
for this.
just okay. We'll just pick up the red phone and call Mr. Video Games, and we'll make it happen.
Mr. Video Games.
Do you have anyone in particular, or did I steal the thunder?
No, that's a really good pick. My mind went to like Devolver Digital, and things that a lot of things they do. They make a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, Devolver has a lot of different type of games too, right? Like they really go for a lot of variety and everything, and unique approaches and everything. And I think that definitely makes a big difference for sure, because you could have a lot of fun with this world and with these characters, and like why not just go for it? Like just go gung ho, like go straight up, go for it. Because like you said, and like we said at the beginning, you're a sentient glove in a crazy world with some wizard and a you know, like it doesn't need to make sense. Just make it happen, and that's it. So I'm all for it.
I know what the developer I want to do now. I'm trying to figure out who they are, because they've tackled lots of different genres. It's the people that did SteamWorld, Image and Form.
Yep.
All of their games, for one, that's like their trope, is like they tackle different like genres of games. All of their games, like deck builders and
SteamWorld, all the SteamWorld games.
Yeah, exactly.
SteamWorld
all the SteamWorld games
and all that. Yeah,
Quest and all that.
Yep.
Now do SteamWorld, but a 3D platformer, and take all the concepts of Glover and make a SteamWorld.
Yeah. Glover doesn't even have to be the thing. It just be like a robot, like they are a lot with the SteamWorld games and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily need Glover to be a thing.
Right.
The thing that's interesting about Glover is its concepts.
Yes.
So take the ideas and dump it somewhere else.
Yeah, I like that.
SteamWorld.
I like that. Yeah, and those games are again. Let's just pick up that red phone and call them. We got it. I think we have two really good ideas, and I mean one of them's going to stick. So
it has to at this point.
Yeah, it's just, it has to. We've been talking about Glover for 45 minutes. It has to stick. Like we figured it out. All it took was 45 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
Oh man,
Jared, man, I appreciate you coming on. Before I let you go, let's let everybody else know again where they can find your stuff online.
Yeah, honestly, if you go to Google Play Along Podcast, our show will show up. We have a link tree down there that has all of our socials. It has our links to our Apple Podcast and Spotify. You can check us out there. Our show comes out every Tuesday morning, around 9 a.m.
Nice. Oh, you even got a time. Jeez. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Man, you guys are much more organized than I am.
Well, it doesn't always it doesn't always come out at 9 a.m. So there's an asterisk around that 9 a.m. to keep us accountable.
Give or take 72 hours. Give or take a week or three. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the concept. Yeah. So, somewhere within the month of every Tuesday. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
You'll find us.
All right. Amazing. Thanks for coming. And we'll have to have you back again. We'll explore another 64 game. And find your podcast as well. And we'll talk to everybody soon. Thanks. Thank you again for joining me on this episode of Remember 64. Hopefully you enjoyed our discussion about Glover. And in the meantime, if you want to check us out on your podcast app of choice, just shoot us a rating. More people can find our fun stuff out there. Also, we have a YouTube channel now where we have some quick 2-minute game reviews of some of the games that we have played on Remember 64. That will continue to build, just in its early days if you're listening to this in 2023, but you can find that at any time on YouTube under Remember 64. And also, if you have a buck or two your way, you can find us patreon.com/remember64. You can support the show that way. Also get some content early, including all of these episodes days, sometimes even weeks early, and that video content ahead of its release to the public as well. Thanks for listening to the show, everyone. We will see you next time on Remember 64.